Hello, and welcome back to the Test Drive Podcast, brought to you by Sport Car USA. I'm your host, Lee Bodette. Well, hi there, everybody, and welcome to our Test Drive Podcast number 48. I'm Lee Bodette, your host. I've been a radio broadcaster for over 40 years. I host a series called Test Drive on the YouTube channel. I'm the front man and host of Sport Car USA, and of course, a car enthusiast my entire life. Our topic today is going to be the 2025 ZR1, set to hit the streets sometime in mid-2025, maybe the third quarter of 2025. Now, before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about my Corvette story, as I recently, this spring, picked up another Corvette. I had a 2020 red Corvette. Of course, torch red is the most popular color. And we're in northern Vermont. We're about, 10, 15 minutes away from Canada. And we're probably one of the last states to obtain really, quote unquote, rare and very desirable automobiles. This was in October 2020, and they had a Corvette on the showroom floor at a local Chevy dealership. I inquired about it. A week or two later, I get a phone call. Hey, the guy doesn't want the coupe. He wants a convertible. To me, they're kind of like the same thing. I mean, the roof just lifts right off, so it's kind of like a convertible to me. So I jumped on that, and I bought that, again, October 2020. Move forward to 2024. I was on my way to work here at Sport Car USA. Oh, by the way, I only owed like 2 more years on this Corvette. And I paid, I think it was around $85,000, $86,000. They only charged me like $1,000 or $1,500 over the MSRP, which I was very grateful for. 2024, I'm coming to work in May, and right next to Sport Car USA is a Chevy dealership. And I look over, there's this big car carrier enclosed, and they were taking something out of it. And it caught my eye, it was yellow. And I love yellow cars. It's got to be the right yellow. I did own a 2014 Corvette. It was yellow, and I absolutely loved it. Ended up trading it for a GT 350, but that's a long story. We'll get into that on another day. Getting back to my ride to work, I see this yellow vehicle coming down the ramps of that car carrier, and it was a 2023 Corvette 3LT with a Z51 package on it. I didn't know that right away. Had to get to work first. And then I walked over to the Chevy dealership and got all the information on it. They had it, of course, in the showroom. I just had to have that car. So I ended up trading my 20 Corvette. And by the way, this was one of the first Corvettes in New England, if not in Vermont, that I traded, the 2020. I loved it, absolutely loved it. Red is not my favorite color, but it grows on me. It grows on me, and I had no problem with this Corvette. Ended up buying this 23 Stingray Corvette. Has the R package on it, which I believe is racing. It's mostly just decals, if you will. They made a pretty decent deal with me on my trade-in, and away I go with my 2023 yellow with black accents, black striping Corvette. Very, very happy with that. Move ahead to next year, which is 2025, the ZR1. The ZR1 is coming to town. I don't know how many they're going to produce, but this looks like one heck of a supercar. Now, they call the Corvette the supercar. It's in line with Maserati, Lamborghini. They're just so much less expensive to get the same almost feel, if you will. Now, I've never driven a Maserati or Lamborghini, but I've read countless articles and people just saying this supercar that Chevrolet has made just is mind-boggling how they can make it, drive that way, look that way, and keep the price down. Like I said, mine was about $86,000, not charging a whole lot over MSRP, which was, again, very grateful. The 2025 ZR1 is going to have, get this, 1,064 horsepower with 828 pounds of torque. 0 to 60, they aren't letting us know that yet. I know they know, the engineers at Chevy, they know in Bowling Green, Kentucky, but they're not letting out how fast it's going to be. Mine, I believe, is around 2.8, 2.9, and this should probably be around 2.4. Again, we're talking almost 400 horsepower over my Corvette, which is 495. So 1,064 horsepower. It's going to have a twin turbo 5.5 liter V8 with a flat plane crank. Now the flat plane crank, I remember that very well with my GT350. That engine smoked. And it's not going to be anywhere near as fast as this Corvette, that's for sure. But I like the fact that they signed the engine. And I think on the ZR1, they're going to do the same thing. The folks that put it together, they get a couple of signatures on the engine block, which I think is a really cool idea. It's going to have 8,000 RPMs, 8-speed automatic with a dual clutch transmission. They're saying, the engineers at Bowling Green's plant, that this is going to be the highest downforce of any production vet, any that has ever been produced. Now, there may be some aftermarket vets out there, and you know what I'm talking about, but as far as production goes, it's going to have the most downforce of any, and of course, the most horsepower as well. The design, I've seen pictures of it, is really cutting edge. It has the wide side air inlets and carbon fiber elements. Very sharp looking. It has a multitude of airflow and cooling features to help cool the turbo-charged air to extract airflow. That's a lot of talking right there. I think I kind of get what it means. That engine is going to be humming. That engine is going to be very hot, and they have to have means to cool it down, and that's how they're going to do it. It's going to come in 10 different colors. I mentioned the yellow, which is one of my favorites. I just love yellow cars, if it's the right yellow. The yellow is going to be called Tint Coat. They're going to have a Sebring Orange. And this one I've just got to see if somebody buys it. Hysteria Purple Metallic. I would love to be on the board of directors who make up these names for these vehicles, the color-wise at least. Hysteria Purple Metallic. Wow. It is going to have an available ZR1 carbon fiber aero package. Now, what does that include? It's going to include the carbon fiber wing with underbody strakes, that's strakes, S-T-R-A-K-E-S, and carbon fiber dive planes. Okay, you figure out what all that means, because I'm not really sure. Split rear window, how about this? The split rear window is coming back, sort of. It's going to have hatch intakes, again, elements to help cool that amazing engine. So it's going to look like a split window from the 60s, kind of. You got to see pictures of this thing. It's going to be available in 10-spoke carbon fiber rims. Those are going to be available. And then you can actually see the carbon fiber imprint, or you know how carbon fiber looks. That's how these rims are going to look. As far as the interior goes for the ZR1, the craftsmanship just looks superior. I have had no issues with my 2020 or my 2023. Now, I only put on like 1,500 miles a year, and that's just the way I am. But I've seen things online where people are saying that the interior isn't holding up really well. I find that hard to believe, I really do, because the stitching is just incredible, and that's what you're going to find in the ZR1. Stitching on the seats, on the console, the steering wheel. They're going to have, of course, plenty of badging, ZR1 badging on the seats and the steering wheel, and might be a couple of other places, maybe by the rear window. It's going to come in a convertible or a hardtop, right? Those are the two choices, and that's not going anywhere. As of now, they're saying that there are going to be 2 models, possibly 3. And what they did was they came up with the 1LZ model and the 3LZ model. Now, I guess they left room for the 2LZ model. I'm sure there is going to be a 2LZ model before all is said and done. As I mentioned, a hardtop or removable panel or convertible will be your choices. And I'm glad, but I don't know if I mentioned this, but my new 23 has about 8,000 miles on it. That is a convertible. And I got to tell you this, a quick story as I diverse a little bit here. one of the reasons I bought this 2023 yellow, by the way, it's called, I always get this messed up. It's not adrenaline yellow. It is called Accelerate Yellow. That's what it's called. And the story on this vehicle is that the gentleman that owned it lived in Florida part-time. During the summer, he lives in Vermont. So he bought the vehicle from his buddy here in Vermont and then drove it to Florida. He's a pilot, a private pilot, and he kept the car, the Corvette, in a hangar next to the jet with marble floors. That just sold me right there. I said, I got to have this Corvette, no question about it. So it had like 8,300 miles on it, 8,500 miles on it. He did drive it, but just pristine, no dings, dents, chips, nothing. It's just great. Smells brand new as well. So, okay, going back to the ZR1. It is joining the Corvette family. What is the Corvette family? There's the Stingray, there's the E-Ray Hybrid, and the Z06. Now the Stingray will set you back about around $68,300 with 495 horsepower. Again, that's what I have. The E-Ray, which is the hybrid, $106,000 to $107,000 for that E-Ray. And if you want a Z06, oh, by the way, 655 horsepower on the E-Ray hybrid, which is phenomenal. Z06, how about 670 horsepower? And that will set you back about $112,000, $115,000. What is the ZR1 going to cost? They're saying between $180,000 to $205,000, depending, of course, on how you get them, the packages on them, what different packages you're going to get on them. When can you get a ZR1? Again, we mentioned mid-October, probably mid-year of 2025 into the third quarter of 2025. Built in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and one of these days, it's on my bucket list. I definitely want to go see the Bowling Green facility that produces the Corvette. So the Corvette has come a long, long way. Some people still are not crazy about the mid-engine design. I absolutely love it, but to each his own, right? This new Corvette, for what they charge, to me is just amazing. Even the ZR1 between 180 and 205, yeah, that's out of my price range. Okay, I'm not getting one anytime soon. How about never? But that still is pretty reasonable. As you recall, we were talking about the Maserati, the Lamborghini, etc., all of these European vehicles that look and sound like a Corvette and move along pretty well with the American muscle car. So that's going to do it for podcast number 48. I want to thank you very much for listening to our podcast. I'm Lee Bodette, your host, and be sure to check out our test drive series on the YouTube channel. We'll see you all next time on our Test Drive podcast. And remember, let's never forget the men and women serving this great country of ours. Goodbye, everybody.